Hey everybody, it's Benita. I know it's late, but the storm keeps me awake, so it's hard for me to sleep when it's storming. I don't know why, but it is. So I decided to just make a few videos since I was up. I don't really have anything to talk about because I'm getting ready to drop some pretty serious videos. And it may not be for everybody. They may not be for everybody. I probably won't post them on my Facebook pages. I don't know yet. I don't know. I know for sure they're going to be on my TikTok page and my YouTube channel. But Facebook, I don't know yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to put any of those videos on my Facebook page. I haven't made that decision yet. I'm still, how do you say? I'm still contemplating. Still contemplating. Some of you know that check the military databases first. I have been living the past 12 years with 2 different types of brain tumors. I talk about it often. Not because I look for sympathy or pity, but because it's my life. You know, if you were a baker, you probably would constantly talk about baking. If you were a banker, you would probably talk about banking quite often. Whatever you were or whatever you were going through in your life, that's probably like at the forefront of your mind more than anything else. And I think just being on this journey for so long, it has given me a platform to speak to a lot of people that perhaps I wouldn't have had a chance to touch had I not been on this particular journey. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. I've been in some really tight situations during this journey. Some I saw coming, some I didn't. Some I can talk about, some I can't. Some worked for my good and some didn't. But the one constant thing has been through every surgery, I can honestly say that God was with me. My biggest fear about surgery is not waking up. That's always been my biggest fear. Every time I have to go back for surgery, one of my biggest fears is always not waking up. Not waking up, and then the second biggest fear is something going wrong during the surgery because of where the tumor is located. So those are things that have always been my concern. Waking up, and then where the tumor is located. Those 2 things has always been my concern. I'll even be honest and say sometimes my fears. You know, I can admit that. You know, I'm done with not pretending. I'm done with trying to prove that I'm a strong, faithful, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes I get afraid, you know, whether it be surgery or whether it be when I'm having those excruciating migraines, you know, I get afraid. There are days where I literally feel like this might be the day. Even now, I have days like that. This may be the day, and I'll be afraid to go to sleep. But then the a peace will come over me, and I'll go to sleep, and then I'll wake up in the morning. And every morning that I wake up, first thing I do is look around, and I stretch and do all of that, and I begin to tell the Lord, thank you. Because I remember a time where I didn't want to wake up. I just wanted to go to sleep. I didn't want to hurt myself, but I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. That wasn't so long ago, because sometimes what people see on the outside is not always indicative of what's going on the inside. And it's not that I ever, put on the front or anything. Sometimes I just make a conscious decision that I'm going to get up, pull myself together and do the best I can for that day. When I have those migraines, my face swells, it's unfortunate, people are, oh, you gaining your weight back. I'm not. It's just when I have those migraines, a lot of people don't even know what a migraine really is. You think a migraine is just a bad headache, but it's not. A migraine has a lot to do with how the blood moves and stuff inside the brain. And I had shared a while back how migraines and strokes can have the same symptoms. I'll go over that again sometime later on in the month, but for tonight I just wanted to let you guys know. My people tell me all the time, oh, you make it look easy. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not my intention. Honestly, my intention is just to keep living, and while I'm living is to be the best representation of me that I can be, best representation for my family, which are my children and my grandchildren. I want to represent them well. And then, of course, when you look good, it helps you feel better. It doesn't always make me feel good, but it does make me feel better, So, oftentimes, I do realize that I have lived 12 years with the two different types of brain tumors that the people I do know that had those, they're all dead. So sometimes it's safe to say that I'm living with something that has killed a lot of people. And when I first heard that, I felt privileged. But then when I'm not feeling well, and when I can't do the things I used to do as quick as I used to do them, not so much. I don't feel privileged as much. Then I feel kind of a little frustrated. So, part 2. So, what I do sometimes is when I start feeling a certain way, I try to find something to distract myself from focusing solely on the headache, solely on the medication, solely on the tumor, solely on if this thing moves in one way or another, it'll just thrust me into a stroke. because of where it is and what has happened to it and the way it has shifted itself. So when I say that my life is in God's hands, like literally, that's exactly what I mean. I'm not trying to be deep and wonderful, but it's just my truth. The thing I love about God is that He doesn't always deal with us according to what we may deserve. You know, He deals with us based out of His love, His character, you know, not our character, but His character. And I'm so thankful to God for that, because can you imagine if God dealt with you the way some people want Him to deal with you? Can you imagine that? I couldn't, because if God dealt with us the way some people want God to deal with us. You got people around you that want God to deal with you a certain way. You've got people in your life, maybe they come and gone, or maybe they're still in your life or whatever, that want God to deal with you a certain way. You know, people like to hold God out as a henchman, you know, their personal hitman, you know. Even today, someone was like, oh, basically, you keep promoting stuff like that and we'll see what happened to your fruit in the kingdom. You know, it's just weird. People are really weird to me. And the whole while I'm thinking, while you're talking like that, I've seen death face to face more times than you have probably waken up in the morning. You know, and you talking about foolish things. I'm talking about the love, the mind, the heart, the will, and the compassion of God. All you gonna talk about is what's an abomination and what's gonna send somebody to hell. You know, sometimes I just want to tell people, well, why don't you go ahead and go to hell, and then you leave the rest of us to God. You know, then people, she said she's supposed to be a pastor. I ain't no pastor. I retired, remember? I retired. You know, so I think sometimes because I have made it this far, I think people get it misconstrued that I'm absent-minded, or I'm brain dead, you know, or I'm simple, you know. None of those things are true. I do have permanent brain damage in spots on my brain, and what that causes, sometimes my recall is not as quick as I would like for it to be. So if something's going on, I might not catch on to it till later, you know. Or if we're talking about something, I might not be able to pull my words down fast enough. A lot of times when you'll hear me say, well, how do you say, that's my cue for reminding myself to just slow down, take my time, and search for my words. It's a method that I have adopted for myself, and my children know, my grandchildren know when I say, how do you say, they know I'm searching for the appropriate words, you know, because unfortunately, that's just something that I've lost from having so many strokes, and then all the trauma to my brain. You know, anytime they go in there and get to poking around, that's trauma to the brain. You know, when you have 200 rays of radiation hitting that brain at one time, baby, that's trauma to the brain. You have strokes like that, that's trauma to the brain. You know, migraines are trauma to the brain. And that's how come, if you follow me, you guys get to see me do my monthly preventative injections for my migraines, you know. So I get it. I understand what people mean when they say, oh, you make it look easy. That's not my intention. I'm not really worried about how I make it look to other people. I think that the most important person is how I make it look to me, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that have to face me. You know, I'm the one that battles with my own mind. I battle with my own body. You know, all of that. Um, so I appreciate the fact that I make it look easy to outside people. I appreciate the fact that um, people are always complimenting me on how beautiful I am. I appreciate that. Don't ever get that twisted. I honestly appreciate that. Um, so if I say, well, I know, then y'all will be calling me conceited, you know, or whatever. But it's not a matter of being conceited, but these are things I have to tell myself as well, you know. Ways I have to encourage myself. Yeah, my recall might be a little slower than what I would like for it to be. But when I'm on, you know. And a lot of times I avoid having long conversations with people, because the longer I talk, the more it is likely that after a while I'm going to say, how do you say? And that's my cue to me to slow down and just let the process work. Let my brain work. If the words come, they come. If they don't, I normally say, I'll come back to that later. That means I tried to pull it down. I tried to pull it forward, but I couldn't. So I'll say, I'll come back to that later. I do it all the time with my children. And then probably like an hour later, I'll be like, you know what I was going to tell you 2 days ago? You know, it might happen like that. It might happen an hour later or something like that. But I think they're used to it. My grandbaby, she's 14. She is such a helpful little girl. She, like, if she see me searching for different words, and if I say a word that she doesn't understand, but I want to use it, but I can't recall the meaning of it, but I'm saying the word, she grabs her tablet and Googles it real quick, you know. So it's just little things my family knows to, you know, to do to help me out, you know. I think that's why I pulled back from dating, you know, because I had started dating, but I pulled back from it because I just didn't want to have to explain that. Yeah, I know that's what we talked about. Yeah, I know you want to talk, but like at a certain time, my thought processes start shutting down, you know, and they don't pick back up until my brain says it's time to be alert. It's just the way it works now. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of control over what I can call to mind and what I can't. But then there are times when once I call something to mind, then I want to deal with it. But I was dating. I was going out with people, but then I pulled back from that because I just didn't think that I was ready to have to explain myself to people, to men all the time. Like, we might talk 5 hours on the phone one night, and then the next night you might call and I don't really feel like talking. You know, that's anybody. I mean, that should not be held against me, you know. So, and then if I put myself, sometimes I put myself on a schedule depending what I have going on during that week. If I shut down at 10 o'clock, and you call after that, I might not have much to say, because now I've already told my brain, told my mind, it's time to settle down. You know, whereas I'm already working double hard all day to make sure I say the right thing. If I'm writing something, if I'm typing something, make sure I'm using the right words, I'm using the right grammar, all of that stuff. All of that stuff that used to just be second nature to me, that used to just come so easy to me, now sometimes it's a task. And so I have to allow myself the grace and the space to be where I am now. I cannot go back, and this is something I had to work through in therapy. I cannot go back to the exact spot I was before the strokes, before they found the brain tumor. I just can't. That's not my life anymore. The hardest things I've had to do was adjust and adapt. Where I used to go to the gym 2 hours at a time, you know. Now I'm gonna be honest, I still want to work my way back up to that. I'm gonna be honest about that now. But things that, like, I don't go anywhere unless I use my GPS. Certain things I've got it down packed now, because I'm directionally challenged. You know, you can't tell me, well, just go down there and make a right. Tell me the name of the street I'm turning on. Tell me how many lights is it going to be. Do I go 3 lights and then turn? Do I go 4 lights and then where am I turning? You know, that's how I am. That part I've always been like that, but it has become more pronounced since dealing with, you know, the brain tumors and everything. One of the things that when I had when I had a setback after the second brain surgery, first one was a breeze. The second one, not so much. 3 weeks after I had the second brain surgery, I hemorrhaged, and all of my organs had started shutting down. It was shut down. So I had hemorrhaged so much. I didn't have enough blood, oxygen going to my brain. So where I thought that I had only been in the hospital 1 day, the nurse told me I had been there 4 days already. So I had to work really hard, because when that happened, they were giving me transfusion after transfusion. The more blood they give me, the more I would hemorrhage. They give me blood, I hemorrhage. Give me blood, I hemorrhage. It was so bad. Even the paramedics, the EMT that came to get me, I told him one thing. I said, don't let me die like this. You know, because I was struggling to breathe, because blood was coming out my nose and my mouth. By the time I got to the hospital, it started coming like my eye. It was a horror scene. It was a horror scene. And I just kept telling them, don't let me die like this. When they asked me what hospital, I was like, well, take me to where my doctor practices. They was like, Miss Bradley, you're not gonna make it if we take you that far. So they took me to the closest hospital, which is Gwinnett. But you know, Northside bought Gwinnett Hospital, so everything over here is Northside now. Um, so the paramedic, the MT guy, he just stayed in the room with me. He would not leave out. Um, he got a chair. He sat in there. He's just looking at me. He just kept saying, "You're not gonna die. You're not gonna die. We're not gonna let you die. We're not gonna let you die." And but the whole time they're saying that, I'm slowly slipping away from what I was told. Um, I'm slowly slipping away. My kidneys shutting down. Um, everything starts shutting down. And my other daughter, she told me she knew I was, I guess, crossing over because she said she heard me talking to her sister. And she said she was shaking the bed telling me to come back. See, and I thought that they had given me like a sleep, something to put me to sleep. So for me, I didn't know I was dying. It just felt like I was going to sleep. That's how it felt. It just felt like I was going to sleep because I was still hemorrhaging the first night, second night. I think by the third night. So what they had to do, they plugged my nose because it was so much blood. They couldn't even tell if I was bleeding from my brain or if I was bleeding from somewhere along this way where the surgeon had went up through my nose into the brain. They couldn't tell where I was bleeding from. They had the green shirt team. They had the blue shirt team in there. They had about 4 different teams in my room. And in the ambulance, in the ride over, I used all the towels they had in there. It was scary. It was scary. So I think that when people start saying certain things to me, I kind of shake my head, because you can look at a person and swear you know them, but until you actually know what they're going through and what they've been through, you really should be more careful with your words when you're talking to people, because you just never know what a person is, especially when you're going through so much at one time, and you're having to process so much at one time, and you're trying to make heads or tails of it, but it ain't making sense to you. It's like you got a lot of questions, but there's not a lot of answers, So even with the doctors, it took them about 3 days, 3 or 4 days to figure out where I was bleeding from. So what they wound up doing, they plugged my nose, but he could only leave those plugs in for 48 to 72 hours. So the third day he had to remove them. So in order for me not to keep hemorrhaging, because they were still giving me blood, what they had to do was take me into emergency surgery, put me under, remove the plugs, and then they were able to see where the blood vessel had erupted. So they were able to cauterize it and stop the hemorrhaging. But like I said, that was like on day 3 or 4 after I had been there, because nothing they was trying was working. And the thing was that they didn't know where I was bleeding from. They was trying to get in touch with my surgeon, but he was in the Bahamas with his wife for her birthday. So but I'm here. So And thank God for that. Um, that took a toll on me. That that took a toll on me, and I know it took a toll on my children because they had to witness it. And from what they tell me, they was like, we ain't never seen that much blood, not even in a horror movie. Um, I don't know if they'll ever be ready to come on my show and talk about it. If by chance they do, I would love for you all to hear from them. Um, because it's one thing when the patient is going through it, but it's really a family affair because, they've had to weather this particular storm with me for the past 12 years. You know, um, the one thing I always say that I'm thankful for is, because I've had strokes and stuff, I was like, Lord, thank you that you didn't leave me undone, you know. But like on my left side, you can only tell a little bit when I wear flat shoes. You can kind of tell on my left side that my left side was more affected because I had a right brain stroke. So it's going to affect the left side. If you have a left brain stroke, it'll affect you on the right side. So I have right brain strokes, so it affects me on the left side. So that's how that works. But people always say, you don't know how to just wear tennis shoes. I do. I have tennis shoes. I have flat shoes. However, the method to my madness is to wear heels, because if I'm wearing heels, it balances out my walk. You can't really tell that my left leg is a little weaker than my right leg because my heels balances them out. So that's why I love stilettos. That's why I can walk in them so well. But I do have tennis shoes. I do wear low heel shoes. So just not as much as I wear stilettos. So um I've had to change a lot of what I do, where I go. I'm cautious of crowds, um, because I still take treatment medicine for the second type of brain tumor. So I'm always cautious of crowds. I still wear my mask sometimes, depending on where I'm going. I wear my mask. Like all this pollen and stuff. I go out, run my errands, and I get back in. Sudden drops in the temperature, when the barometric pressure drops, it's like steel nails, stabbing me in my brain. Literally, that's what it feels like. But I do feel like I've been blessed. I thought for sure I would just lose it when I lost my home January 18th of this year. I just knew I was gonna lose it. But I'm still here. I don't know how I feel most days, but I'm here. I have a lot of questions, but I'm here. There's so much I want to know. Even when I talk to my neurologist, I have a lot of questions for them, and sometimes they don't have the answers. They don't. So my neurologist started using words like phenomenon and you know, stuff like that. My neurosurgeon, he uses words like miracle, you know, stuff like that. From the very first brain surgery, he said it was a miracle. Because where the tumor is like lodged in a cavity right below my optical center. And now it has wrapped itself around my carotid artery. So we have to monitor it to make sure it doesn't touch it or squeeze it. You know, like a water hose. You squeeze a water hose and you cut the water, so you know it cuts the flow of the water off. That's what we have to watch for with the carotid artery, with the tumor around it. Now we have to make sure the tumor doesn't squeeze the artery, because then it cuts the blood flow off. If it cuts the blood flow off, that means I go into another stroke. And because I've had several in the past, except for the grace of God, we don't know what a big one, you know what I'm saying, a big one might do. So that's why I stay calm. I try to stay drama free. I don't bother nobody, you know. I mostly stay to myself. I don't have anybody here that I hang out with. So you know, I have a team of specialists that takes really good care of me. Thank God. So it hasn't been easy, but you know, I realize I've made some decisions that I probably wouldn't have made, you know, had I been more lucid, more, you know, in control, if you will. I just think that I would have made some different choices if I were able to see things clearer. Now looking back over some choices I've made, or I can say some choices that were made for me, I just kind of, it just caused me to stay to myself even more, because I found out that people will take advantage of you, no matter how hard you know, try to be a good person. You'll find yourself in situations that, like I said, for me, I wouldn't have never been in those situations had everything been working right. That's the only thing well, that's one of the things I don't like. I don't like that because my recall is not as quick as it used to be, and because you know, I'm not as quick on my feet as I used to be. I'm still pretty sharp now. Don't fool yourself. But there are times where, you know, if you get close enough to me, you can catch me in my more vulnerable places. And sometimes people take advantage of you. That's a hurt that don't go away so easily. You know, it doesn't go away. It really doesn't go away that easy. Because you think that a person will come in your life and be more of a protector because they know exactly what you're going through, but then they wind up being more of a predator than a protector, you know. And that kind of betrayal, that kind of being taken advantage of, that you don't get over that easy. Mm-mm. It don't go away like that, you know. Not for me, it doesn't. You know, once I realized, like, okay, oh, okay, I couldn't see you then, but I see you now. Okay, give me a minute. Let me regroup. Let me shake myself. And just know that I know now. Just know that I know. And I think sometimes people don't think about consequences. They'll preach about it, but they don't think about consequences of their particular actions. Because there's no way everybody else will have consequences but yours. There's no way. Every action, every choice we make has a good or bad consequence attached to it. And you might feel like, well, there were no real consequences. You know, you got away with it. Now, I don't know how other people deal with stuff, but when I see things clearly, that's when I deal with it. I may not be able to deal with it while it's happening or whatever, or while I'm in it, but once I get out of it and I kind of step back and take a look at it, that's when I deal with it. You know, just don't think. I just don't want people to think that it's okay to take advantage of people in a vulnerable state and they won't have any consequences. You know? Because you will. Now, I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. Once I realize you've taken advantage of me, once I shake myself, get myself together, you know, you got to deal with the consequences of your actions. You really do. Because what person in their right mind would look at someone like me, say to themselves, this woman battled in 2 different types of brain tumors. Her daughter died. Well, first, my best friend died. Then, 6 months later, my daughter died suddenly. That's still a mystery to me. And then, 2 years later, my mama died suddenly. 2, 3 years, 2.5, 3 years later, my mom died suddenly. I remember at my mom's repast, I told my eldest sister, you know, we were raised in a house with 2 parents. My parents stayed together till death did them part. And when my mom died, I was like, dang, I feel like an orphan now. I had never felt that before in my life, you know. On top of living with 2 different types of brain tumors, on top of losing my daughter suddenly, on top of back and forth with brain surgeries, on top of all of that, I felt like an orphan at my age. I think I'm 56 now. So I had to be 53. I think 53. 53 or 54. Because my mom only been gone, I think, 2 years. So, and that was something. Because I had the unfortunate task of pulling the last plug on her. So who in their right mind sits back and watch a person go through all of that and then decide, oh, this is a good time for me to get what I want? Who does that to somebody? There's people out there like that. But again, there are consequences. So I just want to talk to y'all a little bit. Everybody's gone for spring break, so I'm here at the hotel by myself. So I just felt like talking, making these videos. And perhaps I'll make some more videos tomorrow. I don't know. But if you have any questions, put them in the comment sections. And I'll talk to you guys later. Good night.